In the final battle of the mutants of Krakoa versus the evil mechanical agents of Orchis, who will be left standing? Whose names will be written in history? Who will rise to the occasion? Who will burn out and who will fade away? Well, let's hop into the pages of Fall of the House of X, issue number 5. The grand finale to this series, and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, the X-Men are still engaged in a brutal street fight against Nimrod. Not just in one place, though, the machine has been able to split its consciousness, meaning that multiple brutal fights to the death with the fate of mutant kind hanging in the balance are happening all over the world right now. Cyclops is in full-on leader mode, doing everything he can to try and direct traffic, which is hard to do when everything around you is on fire and your people are literally getting punched into space. Also, believe it or not, it's only right here, right now, in the final issue of this series do I finally grasp what the Sentinel City superweapon was supposed to do. I guess it burns up Earth's atmosphere, which I suppose would make it so only machines like Nimrod and Omega Sentinel would actually be able to survive on Earth anymore, which is honestly a hilarious final plan for Orchis to pull out, because I'm pretty damn sure us humans are burning up our own atmosphere anyway, so like literally just give it a couple years, guys. Speaking of Omega Sentinel, it's actually Psylocke who ends up dealing the final blow to this secret mastermind behind Orchis's plot. However, it's not a killing blow, it's more of a laser psychic lobotomy. One that, get this, actually ends up freeing the Karima part of Omega Sentinel's personality, which apparently had been sectioned away by the Omega Sentinel part from the future. We'll actually end up circling back to this later, but at first glance, wow, that feels like a massive 11th hour ass pull there. They didn't even imply at any point during all these Krakoa stories that there might actually have been even a shred of good inside Omega Sentinel. But I digress. It's in the narration we hear that Nimrod has run millions upon millions of different battle simulations between him and mutant kind. He's basically been preparing for this moment since the very moment of his creation, and in all of those different simulations, one thing always ended up staying the same, and that is the final mutant left standing. The final mutant who demanded to go down swinging was always the same. It was always Scott Summers Cyclops. However, in this universe, though, things have changed. Things are different. And that's because in this world, Cyclops has managed to do something that no other Cyclops has ever done before. He's managed to evolve. That's right, Scott Summers has achieved the rank of an Omega-level mutant, meaning that his optic blast can now officially hurt the outer shell of Omega Sentinel. Now, this is one of those things that might feel like an ass pull to you, but it actually does make sense. If you'll recall, they had theorized early on in the Krakoan era that the resurrection protocols might not just be able to bring mutants back from the dead, but actually bring them back stronger. We really only saw this idea, as far as I know, explored with Sync, but hey, you know what? Cyclops is one of the lucky few too who got a last-minute power upgrade. Even then, though, it still might not be enough. Nimrod is just too powerful, and there's just too many of him. It's here in the final moments when it looks like Scott is gonna get his head twisted off his body. He again reiterates the same thing he's been saying since the very beginning of this series, and that is, she won't let me die. Obviously, everyone and their mother assumed that he must have been talking about Jean Grey. Even Nimrod says, oh, what, you think your wife is gonna come and save you? Only this time, Cyclops isn't talking about Jean at all. He's actually talking about the returning Storm. Aurora, of course, has just returned from saving Magneto from death itself, and now she has a hell of a lot of ass whooping to catch up on in a short amount of time, and boy does she. It's here too we learn about a fatal flaw in Nimrod's design, something we have never heard about until right now, and something that I'm not even 100% certain how our heroes know about it. You see, in order to split his consciousness to so many different robot bodies so far apart, Nimrod needs to make use of an incredible amount of power, and now that Cyclops has fractured his hull, Storm and later Sync are able to use massive amounts of lightning to just kind of get right up in there and overload Nimrod from inside out. Elsewhere, we even see the returned and back in red Magneto work alongside his daughter Polaris to also create a magnetic dome out of positive and negative energy to contain the massive electrical discharge, meaning that Nimrod ends up getting absolutely melted. Does that seem like a really easy way out? Yeah, they do try and throw a couple curveballs in here, like Storm and Cyclops actively going out of their way to try and appeal to whatever last shred of humanity might still exist in Nimrod, because remember, he wasn't always a robot. Like Vision, his mental programming was actually based on a human, Orchis's former head of security, but he absolutely swats away the olive branch and earns his final final fate as outmoded technology. Though in the end, the victorious X-Men do ultimately decide to let Omega Sentinel, or Karima as she demands to be called, go, because hey, none of this was really her fault, I guess. And showing mercy to their hated enemies at a moment like this is an important part of reminding us that the X-Men, despite everything that have happened to them, are still heroes and are still good guys. And if they did end up wiping out all the incredibly intelligent machines, then they pretty much would have learned nothing from the whole Krakoan era. With that too, we enter the endgame. Nimrod and Omega Sentinel were the last pieces to be cleared off the board, meaning Orchis is officially no more. We see Shadowcat and Miss Marvel go out of their way to try and raid one of Orchis's facilities to try and extract Professor X, but he's already long gone. He's happy the X-Men won, and he's certainly proud of Cyclops, but at the same time, he is most definitely going to be a wanted man, not just by the mutant community, but also by the US government. He did assist in destroying a whole spaceship, don't forget. Cyclops ends up taking a special cosmic meeting with Lactua the Knower, who basically tells him not to relax. This battle against Orchis might be won, but the threat of the Enigma Dominion could still spell an end for all of them. Want to know more about it? Be sure to read the other book. The Knower does go out of her way, though, to say that Cyclops still might be very important in ultimately deciding the future of human and mutant kind, and that his heart will ultimately be weighed. But in a very nice little bit of book ending as the mutants return to Krakoa, which has thankfully been resurrected with Apocalypse's help, Scott only says that he gave his heart away a long time ago to Jean. So if anyone is going to save the day, do the impossible, and defeat Nathaniel Essex once and for all, it's going to be her. Again, want to know what happens next? Be sure to read Rise of the Powers of X. And so that was Fall of the House of X issue number 5, everybody, and while I certainly enjoyed a lot of what happened in this book in theory and on the page, I cannot help but feel that it all just ended up falling a little short of what I was expecting and what I was hoping for when it comes to the larger Krakoan era. Again, don't get me wrong, there's cool stuff that happens here. Scott becoming an Omega Mutant and being the last man standing is really awesome, and I think they're going to actually be taking that ball and running with it into the From Ashes era, where it looks like there's going to be a bigger focus on Cyclops than ever before. Nimrod's ultimate destruction was suitably epic, and it made use of several other heroes in doing so, kind of completing their arcs as they all help out in the end. But I'd also be lying if I said I wasn't ultimately deeply underwhelmed by Orchis's destruction, especially considering how they had built them up to be this great, unstoppable force for so many years. In fact, Nimrod and Omega Sentinel's defeat here in this book pretty much ends up really forever marking them as secondary villains to the real threat, which was always the Dominion. Which I feel like maybe that wasn't always the case, but certainly got changed. Also, while Nimrod I feel was always destined to go down fighting like he did here in this story, I was kind of disappointed in how they chose to play Omega Sentinel, who was so damn fascinating in those early Hickman stories, only for her potential as the real evil mastermind of Orchis to never really be realized, and to in the last couple minutes actually pulling one hell of a karma Houdini getting to survive. Because damn it, the X-Men needed to spare at least one machine so that they could be the bigger people in this situation. Hell, if it was up to me, I would actually flip it. I would have had Nimrod remember his life as a human and the wife who tried to rebuild him because she loved him so much, and that reminds him of his own humanity, only for Omega Sentinel to fully shoe her humanity and try to kill everyone, though I suppose at this point I'm just fan-booking the event. Overall, though, I would give this one a 7 out of 10. There's a lot to like here, there's a lot to enjoy here, I just feel like it could have been so much better. But it's also not really the end either. Here's hoping Rise of Powers of X gives me more of the finale I was looking for, and maybe even X-Men number 700. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched at the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.